The Five Carlins by Robert Burns. He wrote 5 election ballads, and the other 4 are, he's trying to influence the elections. This one is quite impartial. It's a portrait of the election, and so the five Carlins. There are 5. A Carlin is an old woman. In Scots, a carl is an old man. So these are 5 old women, and each represents one of the 5 boroughs of Dumfriesshire. They are personified. So this election started in September of 1789, and it was, I think, went to December or something, but Burns wrote this in early October 1789. Maggy or Meg represents Dumfries. Marjory of the many lochs or lakes represents Lochmaben. Bess of Annandale represents Annan. Whisky Jean, in later versions called Brandy Jean, represents Kirkcudbright. Black Joan, which means black-haired Joan of Crighton-peel, represents Sanhoir, Crichton Castle. The election was between Sir James Johnstone, who had already been to Parliament and was running for re-election. He was the Tory candidate, and he was a belted knight from a venerable border family, the Johnstones. A tough buggers there on the border. And he was running against Captain Patrick Miller, who was the 20-year-old son of Burns's landlord at Ellisland Farm. And he was sponsored by the Duke of Queensberry. So those are your dramatis personae. Also mentioned in the song are the old good man of London Court and the young good man. So the old good man of London Court was King George III. And the reason the young good man is included here is because King George III actually went insane for a couple of years. He went crazy in 1788, so he may have been, it was a stressful time. So we shall do this ballad, election ballad, and then I will go over the words with you and talk about the tune, which is Chevy Chase. Chevy Chase is the tune, which is a place. So it's the tune to an old border ballad, actually. Not to be confused with the actor comedian. Okay. So in the song, a knight is a necht, a wight, W-I-G-H-T, which is a person, is a wecht, and so on. I'll go through all the lyrics after I sing it. There was 5 Carlins in the sooth. They fell upon a scheme to send a lad to London town, to bring them tidings hame. Not only bring them tidings hame, but do their errands there, and aiblins, gowd, and honour baith, mecht be that laddie's cheer. There was Maggy by the banks of Nith, a dame with pride enough, and Marjory o' the mony lochs, a Carlin old and tough, and blinkin Bess of Annandale, that dwelt near Solway-side, and Whisky Jean that took her gill in Galloway sea wide, and Black Joan frae Crighton-peel, o gypsy kith and kin, 5 wechter Carlins werena found, a South Coontrie within, to send a lad to London town. They met upon a day, and mony a necht and a mony a laird, this errand fain what gay. O mony a necht and a mony a laird, this errand fain would gay, but nane could their fancy please, o ne'er een but tway. The first een was a belted knecht, bred of a border band, and he would gae to London town, mecht nae man him withstand. And he would dae their errands weel, and meekly would say, and ilke een about the court what bet him good day. And he's come in a soldier youth, and spak wi more his grace, and he would gae to London town, if say their pleasure was. He wadna hecht them courtly gifts, nor meikle speech pretend, but he would hecht an honest heart, wad ne'er desert his friend. Now one to choose and now one refuse, at strife their Carlins fell. For some had gentle folks to please, and some would please themselves. And oot spak min mood may go Nith, and she spak up with pride, and she would send the soldier youth whatever might betide. For the old good man o' London court, she did not care a pin, but she would send the soldier youth to greet his eldest son. And Slorry's Marjory o' the lochs, and wrinkled was her brew. Her ancient weed was a russet grey, her old Scots hair 'twas true. The London court sat lecht by me, I sat as lecht by them, and I will send a soldier lad to show that court the same. Then up sprang Bess of Annandale, and swore a deadly oath, says, I will send a border knecht, spite o' you Carlin's baith, for far off fowls hae feathers fair, and fools will change your fain. That I hae tried the border knecht, I'll try him yet again. Then Whisky Jean spak o'er her drink, ye weel ken Kimmer's awe. The old good man o' London court, his back's been up the wa', and mony a friend that kissed his cop is nu a free midwecht. But it's near be stay wi' Whisky Jean, we'll send a border knecht. Says Black Joan o' Crighton-peel, a Carlin stood and grim, the old good man or the young good man, for me may sink or swim. For fools will pray to recht and wrong, while knaves laugh in their sleeve. But Waplaw's best the horn shall win, I'll spear nae courtier's leave. So how this weighty plea may end, there's naebody can tell. God grant the king and ilka man may look weel to themselves. Okay. There were 5 Carlins in the south. They fell upon a scheme to send a lad to London town, to Parliament, to bring them tidings home. Not only bring them tidings home, but do their errands there, represent them. And aiblins, gowd, and honour baith, maybe gold and honour both might be that laddie's share. There was Maggy by the banks of Nith, a dame with pride enough, and Marjory the many lochs, lakes, a Carlin old and tough, and blinkin Bess of Annandale, that dwelt near Solway-side, and Whisky Jean that took her gill, in Galloway say wide. That was a smuggling coast, which is why he says Whisky Jean and later Brandy Jean. In later versions of the song have it as Brandy Jean. And Black Joan, black means black-haired, Joan from Crighton-peel of gypsy kith and kin, 5 whiter Carlins, stouter meaning more stalwart, were not found, the South Coontrie within. To send a lad to London town they met upon a day, and many a night and many a laird. A laird is a squire, small landowner. This errand fain would gae, was eager to go. Of course, women, and only the landed gentry had the right to vote at the time. So Robert Burns was not included, nor would any of the women in these boroughs. Oh, many a night and many a laird this errand fain would gae, but no one could their fancy please. Oh, ne'er a one but tway, but 2. The first one was a belted knight, bred of a border band, and he would go to London town, might no man him withstand. And he would do their errands well, and meikle, he would say. They pronounce it in different ways. Anyway, meikle. Much, he would have to say. It's used as great or much. And ilka ane about the court, everyone about the court would bid to him good day. He'd be a big shot. The next come in a soldier youth and spoke with modest grace, and he would go to London town if so their pleasure was. He's playing the humble guy. He wouldn't hecht them courtly gifts. He wouldn't promise them courtly gifts, nor a great speech pretend, but he would promise an honest heart, would never desert his friend. It's politics. Now, whom to choose and whom refuse at strife, these old women fell, and some had gentle folk to please, which meaning the gentry, nobles, and some would please themselves. Then outspoke Mimmood Meganith, Mimmood prim-mouthed, meaning that's how they say demure or modest. And she spoke up with pride, and she would send the soldier youth whatever might betide. For the old good man of London court, the king, George III, she didn't care a pin, but she would send the soldier youth to greet his eldest son, the Prince of Wales. Then slow rose Marjory of the lochs, and wrinkled was her brow. Her ancient weed was russet grey, her old Scots heart was true. This London court set light by me. I set as light by them, and I will send this soldier lad to show that court the same. So, Sir James Johnstone was the Tory candidate, and more on the royalist conservative side, and Patrick Miller the Whig. Then up sprang Bess of Annandale and swore deadly oath, says, I will send the border knights, by to you Carlins both. And she gets the best speech. For far off fowls have feathers fair, and fools of change are fain eager. But I have tried this border knight, I'll try him yet again. Then Whisky Jean spoke o'er her drink. You well know, kimmers or women, kimmers all, women. The old good man of London court is backspin at the wall, and many a friend that kissed his cop. That's to drink from the same cup in pledge. Is now a freemit white, now an aloof, a distanced person. They're keeping their distance. But it's ne'er be say, it'll never be so with Whisky Jean, we'll send the border knight. Says Black Joan of Crighton-peel, a Carlin stood and grim. She was agitated and grim. The old good man or the young good man from me may sink or swim. For fools will prate of right and wrong while knaves laugh in their sleeve. But who blows best the horn shall win. I'll ask no courtier's leave. I'll speer nae courtier's sleeve. So how this weighty plea may end, there's nobody can tell. God grant the king and ilka man may look every man. God grant the king and every man may look well to themselves. I'm sure you've never heard this. It's not sung. One of the reasons is it's both local and dated, but you can see there's some lovely things in it, and it's a fascinating piece. Burns actually did not like Captain Patrick Miller, nor his sponsor, the Duke of Queensberry, even though Burns naturally would have favored the Whigs. If he'd had a vote, he probably would have voted on character. I want to talk about the tune. It's called Chevy Chase. Another reason why this is not sung is because James Dick, who's considered a great musical authority and was in fact an endearing crank, published a book in 1904 called The Songs of Robert Burns to the original melodies to which they were written. He said in his introduction that he was presenting a representative collection of Scots music from the beginning of the 18th century, even at the expense of the verses. So he would go to old manuscripts that Burns had never seen in preference to, using the songbooks that Burns actually worked with, this man. He did nothing to correct the literally hundreds of alterations and errors made to Burns songs by Stephen Clark, the musical editor of the Scots Musical Museum, who was a church organist from Durham, England, and in my opinion a thoroughgoing hack. But we'll talk more about him in another video. But James Dick had a propensity for dropping B parts from melodies, and he would go back to Durfee's Pills to Purge Melancholy, to find one-part tunes for a song that Burns had used a two-part structure for, or a two-part tune when Burns had used an 8-line verse with a 4-line chorus. So unfortunately, Dick's work has not been corrected. In this case, particularly egregiously, because this is an old 16-measure ballad melody. It didn't even have an A and a B part, and he adapted it, so it only has one part. So you get 23 verses to a one-part tune. That's bad enough, but what did James Kinsley say about this? Do I have that here? No, it's in my introduction. He said, "Oh, I follow Dick and McGibbon," and he copied Dick's truncated tune. Well, this tune I just sang you is from William McGibbon's Scots tunes. It's got 16 measures. What is wrong with these people? Anyway, there's a tune called, a ballad called Chevy Chase. It's in the Francis James Child collection. If you're looking for the tune, that's it. And Burns also used the tune for Elegy on Peg Nicholson. I'm working on a book, going on 10 years now, and as I learn each song to post, I learn more about these tunes and the words and the background. So it's slow going, but in a couple of years, I think I'll be ready to publish, correcting the record, and I hope vastly increasing the respect for Robert Burns's musical authority. He wrote brilliantly to melody, often matching the imagery directly to the shape of particular tunes, and if you don't have that particular variant, you don't really get the full picture. If I may indulge myself, I want to illustrate this in one line of a very famous song. Here's what's in the Scots Musical Museum. Oh, my love's like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. Here's the tune written by Neil Gow, to which Burns wrote the song. Oh, my love's like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. So the museum corrected it to start on a 1. It starts here, not here. Oh my, not oh my. So that was a typical move of Stephen Clark's to conventionalize, but more egregiously took out, there's a grace note that jumps an octave. Rose. I've only seen one in the fiddle literature, and I've looked at a lot of tunes. There's only one grace note that jumps an octave. What does Burns do with that? He has the rose spring. Oh, my love's like a red, red rose that's newly sprung in June. You multiply that by 200 and you can see the harm done to Burns's artistry by his publishers. Generally a condescending lot who couldn't imagine that this peasant who played the fiddle was actually a master of writing to melody, which is an extremely difficult skill. Lyricists, there's two kinds of lyricists. One may just write verses. Another writes to melody and must understand music and the emotional possibilities of a tune. And Burns did that. He played the fiddle, he'd master a melody, take it for a walk. He said he would look for objects in nature that matched the stirrings of his bosom and his thoughts and go home and write. So he was deeply involved with melody and used it brilliantly. Many of his songs are listed on the internet as poems. And, Burns Country, you write to them and say, no, this is a song, and they ignore you. Many of his song lyrics are completely inane when you read them as poems. They don't, his poems are generally of a completely different style, and the subjects are different. And while Burns has been called the world's foremost poet of love, he wrote no love poems. None. All of his love lyrics are songs. They were written to tunes, and they're meant to be sung. And they spring to life. Some of these flimsiest lyrics, you read them in a book and you go, why did he write that? And you hear it with a tune, you go, oh, wow.